All eyes on a major storm system on the way this coming week with severe weather and blizzard potential on the table. I'll tell you who could see what in today's video. Now, welcome in everybody. Hopefully we're having a wonderful first day of meteorological spring. I'll tell you, Mother Nature is going to ring it in a big way with this storm. It really starts on Monday, but really I think hits its peak on Tuesday and Wednesday when we could see a severe weather outbreak, including the potential of tornadoes. It's something we're really going to need to talk about and pay very close attention to as we get closer to that time frame. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Great way to stay up to date as we continue kind of working on through 2025 and what a crazy year it's been so far. And trust me, we've still got severe weather season to get through, hurricane season, and then the start of next winter after that. So I think it's going to be a very active year, and it has already proven to be so with crazy storm systems in January and February. I also want to say thank you to our channel members. Appreciate you. And really anyone watching the video, thank you. I know during these less wintry times, which my channel generally is more geared to, the views come down a little bit. But those of you that continue to stick around for the daily forecast mean the world to me. So definitely let me know in the comments if you're all the time year-round viewer. Would definitely love to hear from you. Alrighty, folks, with that said, let's go ahead and dive on into the latest model data. And what you see next to me, this is the latest run of our GFS American computer model. I think showing that potential very well. Look at that low pressure deepen. It's down into the 970s through the Great Lakes. So again, not only a severe weather threat with this one, I think there's going to be a pretty big winter component to this as well, with blizzard conditions from maybe Iowa, Minnesota, but I think especially Wisconsin and up through portions of Michigan and into Canada, going to have the highest potential of blizzard-like conditions from this storm. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's talk about what's happening right now, because active weather out there currently that's going to set the stage for our next big storm, a big trough dipping down into the eastern U.S., and kind of a big story today is fire danger. And it's not something we've talked a lot about on the channel, but I'm going to mention it because it's a pretty big deal, I think, as we go into the day today. And this is why this big area of very cool, dry air moving southward, that's going to dry things out more than they already have been in the east, specifically the southeast, and really kick up the wind as well. So not hard to see that storm system. Another swirl over Southern California right now. That's actually not our storm system that's on the way. That one's going to kind of get shredded apart by this upper level trough that is bringing the active weather to the east. It's going to bring some converging winds over our our southwestern storm system, kind of kill it off before it's able to really do anything. But behind it, that's when the next big storm begins to show face here as we go into early of this coming week. Now, talking about it, current alerts out there, yeah, you see all these bright pink colors in the eastern U.S. Those are red flag warnings. Not something we see very often. You get maybe a handful of them in this part of the country every year, but this is a big area from Maryland all the way down through basically all of the Carolinas, East Tennessee, through much of Georgia, and even central Alabama. Do not burn anything today. Gusty winds and dry conditions could easily get any kind of fire out of control, and that's something we want to avoid here. Think about Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires. Today is one of those days. So don't burn anything. If you smoke, do not flick a bud into the woods or something like that. Make sure you're just taking every precaution in this part of the country today. So again, wildfires out here, not something we want to deal with, especially in the mountains of North Carolina. Just had to deal with Helene. Do not want to deal with fires on top of it. So go ahead, play it safe. And do everything possible to prevent any sort of fire wherever you may be. All right, let's go ahead and talk about radar imagery. Like I said, we've got that trough in the east, and that is firing up a storm system. This is that leftover storm from yesterday, and we've got some snow ongoing here into Pennsylvania, up through upstate New York, up into Vermont, New Hampshire, even into portions of Maine here. We've got some blue on the map and a little bit of green as well, indicating some light rain. Not a lot left to come from this storm, but definitely some snow on the way for you folks up in the Northeast. But comparative to what kind of snow could be on the way next week into portions of Michigan and Wisconsin, this storm really not that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and time it out for you. This is our latest NAM model, literally just ran, so you're going to see it for the first time with me, and let's kind of see what it shows over the next couple of days. Now, here's that storm system in the Northeast. Again, going to bring some leftover snow this afternoon and evening. In fact, even moderate to heavy snow would not surprise me in Vermont, New Hampshire, northern Maine, even up into upstate New York towards the Adirondacks. And then also notice some lake effect snow getting going into Michigan, back out towards Erie, Buffalo, We've even got some northwest flow snow down into the mountains of West Virginia come this evening. I think that'll definitely be something that isn't that hard to come by in that region. Now, going through overnight tonight, more of the same. Lake effect snow really takes over. Check out during the day tomorrow. Yeah, we've got blue showing up there into Michigan. And then we get to Sunday afternoon. Here's that first little storm I told you that's really not going to do a lot. You can see it coming out of the Colorado, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, whatever that area is called there. It kind of gets out of there and then runs into those unfavorable conditions. And again, if I back it up, this is Sunday evening. You can see it gets going there, maybe even a little bit of a severe weather threat briefly Sunday night there into portions of Oklahoma, gets shredded pretty quickly by some upper level winds and just turns into some showers this Monday morning here pictured on the screen now. And just, I think, again, a couple showers associated with that. But that's kind of the calm before the real storm, which comes Monday evening. You can see this is as far out as the model goes and priming up that storm system to get going. Now, before we get there, let's talk a little bit about snowfall totals on the way over the next 2 days or so from that lake effect event and the leftovers from this frontal system in the Northeast. Now, up through Michigan, I think the UP and especially kind of the eastern upper peninsula and back down south, they're going to see some lake effect snow. Not a lot, folks. This is one of the snowier parts of the country, so this really is not that much, but a couple of inches not out of the question. Maybe even a couple snow showers break containment, get down into northern Indiana and portions of Ohio. Not out of the question with this storm system. Now, the Northeast, a little bit more here. I think just south of the Tug Hill, going to see maybe upwards of 3 to 5 inches of snow to come with this. I also think areas of the mountains of Vermont, New Hampshire could get 2 to 3 inches of snow. Overall, though, folks, really not a big deal by any means, more of just a fun little snow event, if you will, in this part of the country, but clearing out pretty quickly, and that'll set the stage for early next week when all eyes again going to turn to the main weather story, which is this storm system. Now, this is Saturday afternoon, so today we've got our energy map here. Again, you can see that trough in the east. You can see that desert southwest storm. And this little trough, or not little, but a pretty potent trough out over the northern Pacific, that's our storm system. That's where it's at right now. It's off over the Pacific, hasn't even hit land yet. Will do so during the day tomorrow, and you can see as we time it out here, gets into California. This is by Sunday afternoon, and still not really doing a lot at this point, but eventually gets down to the Four Corners by Monday evening, and this is when the storm system begins to be felt. This is when the winds are really going to pick up in the southern plains. This is when we can see a little bit of severe weather Monday, but especially right here, Tuesday afternoon, the storm really cranks up and starts getting this negative tilt to it. That tells me this is a powerful storm with a lot of advection working through in the upper levels. That increases the pressure gradient, that strengthens the low pressure, and that kicks up the wind, and also kicks up that instability flow from the Gulf, kicks up the wind shear above it. Just all around not a good thing here if you want a nice day on Tuesday. And I can almost guarantee it's not going to be a very nice day for a lot of folks as that cranks up. And then by Wednesday afternoon, gets up into the Midwest and into the Great Lakes. That's when winter weather chances really begin. A big block of cold air associated with it, a lot of strong wind, and a lot of lifts indicating that we could have blowing snow by Wednesday afternoon and evening. And then I think by Thursday, this kind of clears on out of here, and behind it, maybe another storm system to talk about in about a week or so from now, and we'll save that for kind of another time once we're done with this storm system. All right, let's go ahead and break it down for you. If you watched the past couple of videos, you kind of know what this next segment is. We're going to look at all sorts of ingredients for severe weather. We're going to overlap them and see who has the highest chance currently of getting that significant severe weather. Now, here is the European model, the latest run that we have. In fact, actually, this is the latest run. So we'll go ahead and use it. This is our storm system Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday, a big severe weather day. This is our upper level wind. So what we're looking at here is where do we have diffluence or divergence or vorticity advection or whatever you want to call it out here that creates a lift in the atmosphere. So basically, if you don't know, I'll go ahead and give you a quick science lesson. Here's the center of low pressure. You can kind of see how all these lines begin to curve around it and they're kind of separating right into here. That's an area of divergence. Basically, that's where above our head, this is 500 millibars, so about halfway up in the atmosphere, all those lines separating, that's leaving a void in the center, and well, that void's got to get filled. So what does it do? It pulls air up from the surface, and that is often a trigger for thunderstorms to begin this time of year, and that's exactly what's going to happen here, I think, on Tuesday afternoon. Another piece of the story here is down here. You see this little band of stronger winds Tuesday. Yeah, that's a bit of a jet streak showing up. This is another area that can enhance lift in the atmosphere and get thunderstorms going, kind of in our right entrance region and our left exit region of the jet streak. That's where severe weather often kind of wants to get going. So with that said, let's go and circle a couple places on this chart and, kind of figure out who has that potential for severe weather to be initiated with lift in the atmosphere. So let's pick a color. We'll do yellow here. So I'll go ahead and circle the areas of the jet streak that have enhanced lift. All right, we got those on the map. Now let me kind of get rid of these lines so we can kind of get that out of the way. Now I'm going to circle just a broader area of where we have just a general divergence on the map here. And again, this does not mean this entire area is going to necessarily see severe weather, but could absolutely get the ball rolling. All right, so that's kind of where we have enhanced lift in the atmosphere in these regions due to upper level ingredients. And anywhere you see the circles or the lines start to overlap, that's where we start to get more and more pieces together to potentially produce severe weather. All right, that's the trigger. Now, what about surface instability? Where do we have instability at the surface to potentially help to fuel these storms even more? Well, let's circle a couple areas. We'll do it in this kind of pink color here and find a couple areas. So we've got definitely an area of some instability down here. We've also got a little bit of an area back up in this section. So that's where we have surface cape there in the pink colors. And then what about bulk shear? This is kind of what gets things spinning in the atmosphere. We'll go ahead and do this in a black color. So I'm gonna go ahead and outline where we have the strongest bulk shear that could potentially produce severe weather. All right, so I know that's a mess. And now what I'm gonna do is switch on over to this map and get us in the same time frame. So this is the European model, kind of showing that potential for severe weather. And I know it looks like spaghetti on your screen. Trust me, I get it. But basically, anywhere you see these circles and bubbles overlapping, that's where we have the highest ingredients for severe weather. And then you overlay it with what the surface projection is for precipitation, and then you kind of really pick out who has the highest chance. So obviously, looking at all of this, where do the ingredients overlap with where there are storms or rain falling from the sky? Well, a couple areas, but the number one area you're going to probably notice is right down here into let's see if I can pick a color that'll show up a little bit better. We'll do this. Right down here into Arkansas, Louisiana, back down into Mississippi. That's where we have most of the ingredients overlapping for severe weather. And I'll go ahead and clear the screen, and I'll tell you what, guess what? We check out what the Storm Prediction Center is forecasting for Tuesday. Where do they have the highest threat? Right there. So there's the math works out in this case, is what I'll say. The Storm Prediction Center and what I'm seeing are kind of the same thing here, and that's areas around Memphis, Pine Bluff, Monroe, Jackson, Tupelo could be in the bullseye for significant severe weather Tuesday evening. Now, that's not the only area. Again, we had all those other bubbles. Those kind of all get encompassed in the yellow area, but the orange, that's where it's a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk for severe weather at day 4. And tomorrow, if they want, they can upgrade it. The past couple of days, they've had to keep it at this risk level, not because it's downtrended, but it's just the highest risk that they can even issue at this range. So you see that kind of overlaps with my forecast. Well, I think the Storm Prediction Center's got this one nailed down, as you would expect. They are the experts after all. But there are plenty of times. Sometimes I have different thoughts than them, and that's okay as well. We are all kind of trying to do the same thing here, which is forecast the future, which no one really knows what's going to happen. So, but definitely agree with this forecast. I think this will probably be right where the bullseye is, given the current model data. Now, it could shift north, it could shift south, it could definitely shift east or west. That's oftentimes what happens if these storms speed up a little bit or slow down a little bit, and that'll be something to watch. But that's for Tuesday. Now, the problem, or not the problem, but the other thing to monitor here is, actually, let me make sure you can see that. Yeah, okay. The other problem, oops, I just moved the map, is Tuesday's not the only day. Wednesday is another day we're going to need to watch for severe weather potential. So let's do the same process. Let's look at the upper level ingredients here and see what we've got going on. Now, this is for Wednesday afternoon. Now, where do we have that lift or that divergence? Well, a lot less upper level wind. I think that's favorable for a ton of lift come Wednesday afternoon. A couple areas though. So we've got the center of low pressure, again, kind of parked here over really right over Chicago, it looks like, at least in the upper levels. It's where the trough is by Wednesday afternoon. Out ahead of it, let's again try to find where do we have kind of some increased lift in the atmosphere, and we'll pick a color. We'll do this blue color. How about that? So we've got a lot of diffluence up here in the north. And then we've got just general divergence back down to the south. So this is kind of where we have lift in the atmosphere. And I'll remind you, lift does not necessarily mean severe weather. You can have lift over a cold area and get snow, for example, but that's kind of where we have the most lift. Now, you could argue maybe a little bit of a jet streak down into the Carolinas if you want to pick out this little area. I'm going to not do that because I don't think it's pronounced enough to say that there's significantly enhanced lift due to a jet streak there. So we're just going to take the overall general diffluent side of this trough and kind of circle it there. And you'll notice less exciting probably than Tuesday. Now, what about surface cape? Where do we have, instability at the surface? Well, let's pick another color and start circling some of these areas and kind of figure it out. We've got kind of a skinny ribbon of it right into here. All right, there we go. So you can already see some of these bubbles beginning to overlap. Now, what about bulk shear? Where do we have bulk shear? We'll go ahead and do that in kind of this black color and outline it. All right, there we go. Okay, and then we'll once again overlap this with what the service projection is at the time. So let me back it up and get us to Wednesday at 18Z. And oops, sorry, moving maps all around the place. All right, let's go back to here. Okay, so you see this again kind of lines up pretty well. Now the bullseye where everything overlaps is in the Carolinas and Virginia. And you can even see we've got some shower and storm activity in that region. We've also got an area up in Ohio, a little bit closer to the surface low, where maybe it's a little less unstable. However, we've probably got even better kinematics or wind shear and lift in the upper level. So that's another area to watch. Watch Ohio come Wednesday afternoon. And then obviously the Mid-Atlantic is the more classic place you would expect severe weather. When you get severe weather into the Dixie Alley, normally the next place is the Carolinas, Virginia, places like that. So definitely, again, seeing the overlapping of the bubbles, if you will. Now, this is where things get a little bit strange, though. I show you the NWS forecast, or the Storm Predictions forecast, and you see, well, nothing in Ohio. Okay, well, that's a little off. And then you also see that this is displaced pretty far to the east compared to what I just showed you on the models and kind of where the ingredients overlap. It was more towards Charlotte and kind of this circled area of the Carolinas and into the Danville area of Virginia. So what gives? Well, what gives is this. I'll go back to the model. This is the European for 18Z or 18Z Wednesday. Excuse me. Let me show you the GFS at the exact same time, and I can kind of pull it up on the fly here. All right, so let's see where this is at 18Z on Wednesday. Notice that the storms are a lot further east on the GFS. They're already kind of working offshore of the eastern seaboard through the coastal Carolinas by Wednesday afternoon, while the European still has the storms really just getting into the Piedmont by the afternoon. So this happens pretty often this time of year. We've got some disagreement in the models on where they are putting the storms at that time frame, and that's kind of messing with the forecast a little bit. But I'll go ahead and add to this. This is obviously what the Storm Prediction Center expects. I would also go ahead and put a little bubble up here into Ohio. I think that area could see some severe weather come Wednesday. And then you could also extend this yellow region maybe back a little bit to the west if the storm is closer to the European timing. Now, if it's closer to the GFS timing, then yeah, this map's probably about right. And the Ohio threat would also be a little bit lower. Maybe you could argue it even moves into PA a little bit. Not out of the question. But that's kind of my current thoughts on the storm system in that capacity. All right, let's go ahead and back it up again, and let's time the whole thing out for you. We'll use the European model. I think more reliable, might as well use it, right? So here we go. We've got the storm really beginning here by Tuesday afternoon. You can see it really deepens and blossoms, 987 millibar low. Yeah, that's pretty strong. That's going to bring plenty of active severe weather. We've got all that severe weather potential out in front of it that we just talked about, so we don't need to discuss that too much. But notice on the northern side, winter weather beginning to build in here from the Rockies, starting, I would say, really Monday. In fact, if I back it up a little bit, look at all the snow in the Rockies. Even Denver could get a pretty good snowstorm out of this one, I think. And then this pulls north. Folks, get strong quick. We're talking 980 millibars by Tuesday overnight. At that point, the severe weather threat shifting east with this squall line. I definitely think a QLCS overnight Tuesday after whatever storms form during the afternoon kind of congeal together and kick it towards the east by the overnight, but to the north, a blizzard potentially beginning somewhere in this circled region. I know it's a big circle, but I think someone, especially in Wisconsin, Michigan, but potentially Iowa, maybe even Minnesota is going to see blizzard conditions out of this storm by Wednesday. You can see that storm pulling up, parks itself right over Chicago. This is Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, Windy City. Trust me, it'll be windy on Wednesday. And then that deformation band of snow, this is where those blizzard conditions are going to happen on the back side of the low. And on the northern side, this model, the European, even gets it into Iowa, up into the Twin Cities, through Wisconsin, Michigan. Now, the heaviest of the snow in this band is going to be kind of in the bullseye of this northern part of it. So back down this way towards Iowa, probably lesser end snowfall rates, but the winds will still be plenty strong enough to blow around whatever is falling from the sky. And then that pushes up into Canada. Nasty winter weather conditions through portions of Canada. This is Wednesday night. Squall line, just nasty, windy, gross weather into the northeast by Wednesday evening, including New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York City, I think, and then even up into New England. And then we get into Thursday afternoon. Still windy, breezy northwest flow kicks in behind the storm, but the severe weather threat dwindles. And check it out. This is the latest European. I didn't even notice this till just now. Kicks up a whole new storm and gets a blizzard into Maine by about a week from now. Even less than that, about 6 days. That's interesting forecast there, but you get the point. A big storm, big problems. Let's talk about some of the factors in it here. What about the wind? Yeah, it's going to be pretty windy. This is Monday afternoon. Not a lot happening, but then we go to Monday evening and into Tuesday morning. I mean, it gets breezy down here into Texas, Oklahoma, back out into the Rockies. These are max wind gusts within a 6-hour period. Denver, yeah, you're going to feel the wind. We're talking, gusting around 30, 40, maybe 50 miles an hour. Same thing for Texas, Oklahoma as the storm kicks up. And look at Tuesday evening, folks. We're talking hurricane force wind gusts, not out of the question, in Texas, Oklahoma, back out into portions of Kansas. So those wind turbines are definitely going to be, storing some energy. Trust me when I say that. And then notice the strong winds into the Tennessee Valley. This is from that squall line during the overnight of Tuesday into Wednesday. Very gusty winds, embedded tornadoes probably going to be an issue there. And then we move it ahead. Very strong winds through the Ohio Valley, up through the Midwest. Power outages going to be a concern, I think, here Wednesday afternoon. Blizzard conditions, again, somewhere up into the Great Lakes and into the Midwest. And then by Thursday, or by Wednesday night, really, those gusty winds move to the northeast, the I-95, Jersey, New York City, Philly, gusting around 40 miles an hour, I think, by the evening of Wednesday, and stays breezy over the Great Lakes, very breezy into the Apps. That northwest flow really going to kick in with a big push by Thursday. And then I think by Friday here, you notice the wind continues into the northeast. It gets really breezy behind this thing. The Poconos back up into the mountains of the Catskills here. Yeah, very strong wind gusts into the 60, 70 mile an hour range, at least on this model. And that holds on for a while. And then we finally clear out by next weekend. But you get the point. Yeah, very breezy with power outage concerns. All right, final thing. What about snow? I talked about blizzard conditions. Well, you need some snow to get it. This is the latest blend of models. And notice, if I back up, first of all, let me show you the Rockies here. Yeah, we're going to get some snow out here for sure. Denver, I think you could get a good couple of inches, especially back out towards the actual mountain chains here. We could see more than a foot. We go and zoom out again into Nebraska. Iowa, lesser totals here, maybe a couple of inches. But then you start getting up towards Rochester, Green Bay, Marquette, into Washua, and into northern kind of Wisconsin and the UP. This is where we could see half a foot to a foot of snow, not out of the question. The bullseye right now on the models, right here towards Marquette, and I think that's about right. And then you look up into Canada, and you can see that bullseye continues up that way. But someone in this region definitely going to pick up on blizzard conditions. As for the United States, I would definitely favor northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan at this point in time. Alrighty, folks, well, that's all I've got for you on this. What day is it? It is Saturday, and it is also the first day of meteorological spring. So obviously I've got the snow thing here. I did the severe weather one at the beginning. Good to kind of mix it up, I think. But definitely go ahead, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell for the latest notifications. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you all next time.